First up is Sebastian. Um, so this is good. I mean, it's pretty much right out of the tutorial, so that's good. Um, you've got the two contact frames, which is good. And you've got that sort of, in between recovery frame there to smooth out the transition. That's good. Yeah, I mean, the only thing you could have done to go beyond this was to kind of innovate it further by doing, some creative application of it, but this is straight out of the tutorial. Nice. It's good that there was an earlier version of this that had too much squash and stretch, and that's definitely been toned down. It's nice you got that tennis ball texture on there. That helps let us know which one it is. And there's still some squash and stretch, so that's good, but not too much, so it looks realistic. Or like a little rotate at the end. There's something a couple of the bounces feel like they hang a little bit at the top. Maybe this one for a realistic ball. Yeah, it's kind of like the first two feel like they hang at the top of the bounce a little bit. So I might shorten that. Whereas it ends, with that nice quick bounce, which seems more realistic. So yeah, for a realistic bounce, I might sort of speed up how much they hang at the top. But really, it's very good. It's believably like a tennis ball, and it's clear that you've taken some time to look at some reference it shows in your work. Next up is Todd. So looking at this, it's okay. There's a few issues, and the first one I'm noticing is that notice on the squash that it's not maintaining volume, or even on the stretch. So imagine, think of a water balloon or something. Like if you stretched it long, it's going to get thinner. If you squash it flat, it's going to get wider. And you want to maintain volume. So look at that and look at how when it stretches, it should actually get thinner, but it actually maintains most of its width. But it's really a problem on the squash because if it's going to squash that flat, it really needs to, get wider as well. And then when it stretches, it should get skinnier, which is not doing well. And same there. And then here I noticed that you'll notice it's already squashing before its contact frame, and actually the frame before its contact frame it should be fully stretched. There was also the additional part about the having two contact frames, which you may want to look over. That can make that look nicer. Might try. I think this is acting a little funny full size. Let's just play this small. So these bounces are looking a little. Some of the bounces look like they don't have the tangents right. Especially that one. But the roll looks good and some of the timing looks good. Let's take a quick look at the animation in Maya here. It's a cartoony bounce again. And take a look at the graph editor. Looks like you have separated out the translate, rotate, and scale into different nodes. So let's just look at the translate first. Yeah, and if you look at the shape of the Y curves, I think that, let's just look at the Y. I think that'll tell you a lot right there, because you want that kind of more rounded shape. So look at the animation now. See how it's got this kind of diagonal up and down thing? And then let's adjust these. I'm just selecting Shift middle mouse. I think we're going to want to turn on, well, let's do this first. Oh, these are no longer broken. Let's make sure these are broken. And yeah, I might not even need to scale those top ones. I might just need to shape this. See how that's more rounded looking? And especially this guy, which isn't at all. This one should be flat. Yeah, my technique is select the keyframe so the tangents show up by marquee selecting the keyframe, and then marquee select the tangent I want, and then middle mouse drag. And then again, that one should be flat. Okay, that alone should make a big difference on this. Doesn't that look better already? Honestly, I don't even notice the squash and stretch problems as much once I do that. So for scale, it's a little harder to see what's going on in the graph editor, but let's grab the outliner here. So I might just work in here. Was that right view or front? Oops, it's front view. So on this squash frame, you know, to maintain volume, you're really going to want to be, whoops, wider that way. I do have auto keyframe on, so. And on this one, really going to want to be a little narrower. And I might just, well, let's just leave that in. Yeah, this is where that having that contact frame really helps. Also, oops, I keep doing that. It's you know, it's a little better. So I won't spend too much time on this. And you've got that recovery frame, but I would, well, yeah, leave that in there. Okay. But it really helps to have that contact frame right before. Anyways, I won't go over that again. I go over it in the video. But those are a couple things you could do to fix that up. Next up, Stephanie. Okay, pretty good. Pretty close to the demo one. You didn't get the extra contact frame there, which is always nice, but it's okay to have it without that. I would argue that your stretch could be skinnier to maintain volume, because it looks like it's maintaining the same width while it stretches out. And this looks smaller, so that could, if it's going to squash that much, it could probably go a little wider. And the last bounce is weird, just the way it, you know, the forward momentum of the ball is, you know, it will gradually slow down as it bounces, but this seems to be, you know, fairly consistent in this direction. And then suddenly on the last bounce it slows down a lot, because it's like it goes doing, doing, and then it's just like almost, the last one is almost just up and down compared to the other ones. So it shouldn't just suddenly slow down its forward momentum quite so much. Other than that, it looks good. So this does not look so much like a golf ball. It looks like a slightly modified version of the cartoony bounce with just less squash and stretch. It almost looks like you just took the same animation and like got rid of the squash and stretch. So I think that the thing to do would be go back to reference. If you have a golf ball at home, great. If not, look at some, find some YouTube video or something and really look at how the golf ball bounces. Um, I think it's gonna lose a lot more height between each bounce. So if it's here on the first bounce, you've lost very little height on the second bounce, and I think I would expect the golf ball to lose more height. But again, the answer is in the reference. And right now, this just looks like the cartoony bounce that's slightly modified. So I think the cartoony, okay, needs a couple fixes. Realistic, you know, is worth if a lot more attention because it doesn't look like it was drawn from reference, which is really the idea of the assignment. Next up is Stephen. Yeah, looking really good. What's interesting here that I'm noticing is there's this. It's good you got the extra contact right in there. Notice how it stretches and then goes to normal size and then stretches again. And it really was working for me, even though it's not, sort of in my standard tutorial, but it gives it this kind of wobbly look that seems to be working. Um, and you have the extra contact frame too. There was something, there's a little kind of slip in the roll there that looks funny if you see that at the end. But besides that, it looks great. I think maybe if it kind of kept translating while it finished rolling, it kind of maybe it's the could be the animation curves of the rotation versus the translation, where the translation kind of slows down more at the end, whereas the rotate's still going. But either way, it's sort of it slips a little at the end, right around there, and that could be better. But yeah, overall that looks very good. So looking real slow motion here, um, which I'm guessing maybe you pulled from some slow mo reference. So I don't know. It'd be good to know what the reference was that we're going for because it does look odd because it's slow motion, but I imagine it's supposed to look slow motion. I really do like how the impact on the ground changes the spin, and it looks like it's believable, and I like it had that slight rotation at the end where it's coming to rest. So my guess is that you drew this closely from slow motion video. It'd be very cool to see what the reference was on that, but it does look like you paid a lot of attention to detail, especially the way the rotation changes when it impacts the ground and so forth. Next up, we have Crystal. Okay, so we've kind of got the two contact frames. It seems to be working well here, whereas here it's sliding a little bit there. Um, and I would again say you did an okay job, but pay more attention to the volume because I would say I guess it gets a little skinnier as it gets longer, but maybe go a bit more. So again, it's that weird thing where it seems like that forward momentum is slowing down so much at the end, um, while it's still bouncing so vigorously up and down. If we take a look in Maya, let's take a look at the graph editor here, and so it translates. I guess it's, yeah, it's the translate X. So yeah, you've got that. Oh, I can see the issue right there where you've got, the two contact frames, but you didn't hold the X position for that. Um, so what I would say is it maybe just slows down a bit too much here, and maybe I would get rid of. See, you're missing those extra frames. So we'll put those in afterwards, though. But I would get this to be a bit straighter, like not slow down quite so much at the end. Maybe even. So it's not slowing down as much. Let's just watch it again. So that looks better to me. And then to put in those extra frames, my trick for that is click here, middle mouse click there, so everything's in the same position, but then only keyframe the translate X there. I screwed up my tangent, but we can fix that in a second. And then here's the next one. Middle mouse click there, right mouse click, key selected. Hey, oops, did I do the wrong frame? Oh, sorry. Middle mouse click, and then right mouse click, key selected. What am I doing wrong? Oh, there's not a keyframe here. Interesting. Okay, so let's key that. Maybe from me moving that thing. Okay, middle mouse click, and then key selected. Okay, now you get that flat thing, and then we can just make those linear again. I may need to then move this out again. Let's take a look. Yeah, see, and maybe that's what happened to you, that last bounce. Yeah, so let's take a look at the overall shape of this. So it really is changing here and here, so that is a bit tricky. So I guess what I'm just going to do is I can move it up and down without changing the timing, kind of look at the overall shape. So shift middle mouse click, something like that. I think I'll slow it down a little bit. Maybe slow it down a little bit here. Just looking at the slope of that. Okay, see how we like it now. It seemed a little fast at the end there. Okay, better. There's a realistic bounce. Okay, so it's hard to tell what reference you're drawing from, but right now that isn't looking like a realistic ball, mostly because of the timing. If I think, like, I guess look at how long it takes to get from here. So from this top position, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 frames. And then let's look at a little slower bounce. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if it's dropping a much shorter distance, it's going to take less time in reality. Even with cartoony stuff, you're going to do that as well. But certainly in reality, it's going to take less time to cover a shorter distance. So I think what's not happening is these bounces are not speeding up enough as they get shorter. So those ones towards the end should get faster, 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 and they are a little bit, but not enough. So let's take a quick look in Maya, and Yeah, I mean, if you just kind of look in here, let's just look at the translate Y. So what we would expect, and it happens a little bit like that last one and these three, but I'd expect the distance from here to here versus here to here. This one should be less, that one should be less, etc., etc. So we can do that in here. I might actually use the um, do it in the timeline. So this second bounce, one good trick is right mouse click, keys, remove in between, and that'll just shorten the distance between those. And then what I like to do is if I use the G key, it'll just do that again. And then this one, I might lose a couple on each side, and maybe 3 on each side here. Let's see where we're at now. It still needs work. Especially, okay, removed a lot more in betweens. Okay, now that's looking a little better. Yeah, I still think that needs that first one is just so slow too. So we're moving a lot of in betweens there. Okay. Anyways, just to give you an idea of how you can work that, I still think that needs attention. But the main thing is to go back to looking very closely at reference and matching that more closely. Because right now it sort of looks like you mostly took your cartoony bounds and just took the squash and stretch out of it. But the idea is to really draw it from reality. Next up is Nadia. Yeah, it's looking good. Again, maybe paint. Look at the size of the sphere here, and look at it here, and it just looks like about the same width but longer. So definitely go a little more narrow there. You got the 2 contact frames, which is good. Yeah. Overall, I think it's looking good. Just pay attention to the volume. Maybe that last bounce looks faster, but it if it should be significantly different in height. Like if you look at the first 2 bounces look roughly the same speed, and then that third one seems a lot faster, but the height, you know, is here, and the height admittedly is slightly taller there, but not not different enough in height to justify that change in speed. So, um, yeah, try to not have such a drastic change in speed between the bounces, unless you justify it by a much decreased height. And the realistic, it says used a plastic golf ball from this link. I guess we can good to take a quick look. Oh, this is quite long. Is it this one? Plastic. Baseball. Racket. Racket. Let me find. Here's plastic golf ball. Cool. So, I notice where you're getting that, where it goes straight and then moves forward, but I think that you've maybe gone too far with that because maybe not. The other thing is that look at this distance for the first drop versus the height of the first bounce. So we're at maybe half the height on the first bounce, and then half again on the second. Something like it halves each time, very roughly. So, and I think that's where this is really differing is that first of all, that first vertical distance is much more. You could even start from off screen, but it bounces up to almost exactly the same height as it started at, and it should do something like halve each time, and again on this one. So that's what's really missing here. I think is the losing the height, and then the speed of the bounce. And you might just want to get at least not. I mean, certainly the first drop can be perfectly vertical, but don't make it quite so perfectly vertically back up. At least have a little bit of forward momentum, even if it does that funny thing. And the other weird thing is that it goes it goes down and straight up on the first bow. It's fair enough, but then when it gets to the top, then it suddenly moves forward, where it should start moving forward immediately after contact. Let's watch this. Whoops. See, it's first bounce up. Yeah, pretty vertical. I would still argue it should go forward a little bit. But then as soon as it hits the ground, look how it moves forward. See how it's gone right into that arc shape, whereas yours is going straight up and down, and then suddenly here moves forward where it should move forward from there. So yeah, biggest thing is the heights, and then yeah, look at some of the timing, and then that arc of that bounce. But I really appreciate including the reference. And if I, honestly, if I thought better of this assignment, I think it would be best for me to just have everybody include the reference because it helps a lot with critiques. Next up is Cameron. First thing, Cameron, is just have the one, which looks like we just have the cartoony animation. We also require a realistic one. Okay, and yeah, it looks like there's a number of issues here. So it should, after the squash contact frame, it should stretch, and you have it still squashed going back up. So that's probably the biggest issue here. So it's stretching as it goes down. Good. It squashes when it hits, although I would say it should get wider to maintain volume. But now it should stretch. And I did that little sort of cheaty thing where I said, oh, well, you can have one frame where it's sort of recovering from the squash. But yeah, it should be stretched here and then come back to normal at the top, which it is, and then stretch as it goes down, which it is. But then this one also, it's starting to squash before the contact frame. Do you see that? And that should not happen. And then again, stretched here. So there's the biggest problem with this is the squash and stretch. Nice that you have a roll at the end. And some of the bounces just look a bit soft. Now let's take a quick look in Maya. So yeah, the biggest thing is the squash and stretch, but let's take a quick look at the, let's focus on the Y translate curve here. So, yeah, I mean, I could kind of see it here, like this one is an issue. Oh, those aren't broken right now. So let's break these and adjust those. Whoops. Yeah, not sure. Oh, that's the rolling there. Why is there any? Why translate at all on that? I would actually just say if that's just rolling there, that should be just flat at the end. I don't know why. Oh, did you like compensate for the pivot point position or something? Oh, geez, that's difficult. Kudos to you for that. So, yeah, just try to get these a little kind of round these out to nice arc shapes. And I think that'll start helping give you a bit of a nicer bounce. I'm just marquee selecting the keyframe and then marquee select the appropriate handle, then middle mouse dragging while in move mode. I'll take this guy out, don't need him. Make sure that's flat at the top. Yeah, this one could definitely use a little bit more. Okay, let's see if we like it any better now. Um, a little better, and then the thing to go is to fix the squash and stretch. So adding the contact frame, which you can look that over. But again, if I just I'll do my trick where I click here. I want that same stretch. Let's say I can go one more. I'm middle mouse dragging, and then I'll select my scales, key selected. So I give him that extra recovery frame here, but then it's stretched as it goes back up. And then again here. I'll just click on this one, middle mouse click here, key my scales, and then again here. Okay, see if we like that better now. Better, right? Okay, Sean is up next. Let's grab the cartoony bounce first. Looks alright. It feels like for the height and speed, the squash and stretch is pretty exaggerated. I mean, it's got a good look, but I might go with bigger bounces or tone down the squash and stretch, just because the vertical distance we're doing seems small for that much. And we have that thing again where that last bounce is looking a little suddenly slowing down its forward momentum. But although it's all right. Overall, it looks pretty good. You got the basics right. It's just a question of fine tuning and touching up. It looks good. They're realistic. Yeah, some really nice, thoughtful rotation going on here. And yeah, the spin at the end. I know balls can do that, but it looks maybe a bit much. And I think the part that's grabbing my eye is where is this one right there, where it suddenly gets that extra spin there. But again, balls can be unpredictable. Maybe the reference did that, but it's sort of eye-catchingly looking like a bit much. And I might go with a little less squash and stretch for a realistic bounce. That looks like a bit much for me. And the timing of a couple of these middle bounces looks a little bit slow. Like that one, the hang time in the air feels like a little, it's like it could be a bit faster. But again, it'd be cool to see the reference used and try to draw from that. Danielle had an issue with the play blast, so I'll just go straight to the Maya file. So this is cool. I like that you took it, did something innovative with it. You went beyond the assignment. Yeah, it's looking good. The timing looks good. Um, One thing it doesn't have that can be nice is that angling of the. I don't think I've used this particular rig, this ultimate ball rig, but getting that angle in as it falls can look nice. Doesn't that look good? I think so. I might have exaggerated a bit too much, but let's get it back to 0 by the time it gets here. But yeah, looking good. Did it rotate as well? Is that? I can't select it. Let's just do wireframe unshaded. Oh, no kind of spinning there. Okay, good though. I guess for that kind of ricocheting off that, you're kind of hungry to see the ball spinning in addition. But yeah, it looks good. And realistic. Yeah, it looks good. It has some, oops, going backwards. There's this funny acceleration thing going on there, which I know can happen with balls. So, but let's take a quick look. Where are my animation curves? Oh, there's a bunch of different ball shapes in here. I don't. Sorry, on this one I need to select the animation curves to see the animation. Imagine that. So yeah, looking at this speed, we can see. So it really speeds up here, and then slows down and speeds up. I'd be interested to see. Just to have a play with it. What happens if we take these guys out? So let me turn off everything but the polygons. I mean, it doesn't have that kind of funniness to it, but at the same time, it's sometimes those odd things that happen that make it look more realistic. So it could be a case of maybe toning it down a touch, that sort of change in acceleration, and finding a happy middle ground. But overall, it's very, very good. Next up is Byron. Alright, seems to have a few issues here. It's like when I showed recently here where it should be stretching at this point. Instead, it stays squashed on the way back up. It should stretch right after the contact frame. And I think that's the issue there. This one, it's like you have Yeah, you didn't really stretch on the way back up both times, so that's one issue. And then I would maybe take a look at the animation curves as well. Let's take a look in Maya. So let's start with the Y, and yeah, just look at the shape of those. You can see right from there that we're going to have a problem um, with the bounce. So I'm going to sort of center these. Just I'm in move mode, and I'm shift middle mouse dragging, and then I marquee select the key, and then select a tangent, and kind of fix these shapes a little bit. Okay, so I think you'll already see an improvement there. Yeah, that's already looking better to me. And then I think it's a question of going in and fixing the squashes and stretches as I demonstrated before. Here's the realistic. So, yeah, that's looking a little odd, and there's some issues with the contact frames somehow. Like they're not quite hitting the ground, and let's take a look in Maya. So here it is in Maya. Let's take a look at the graph editor. Let's take a look at the translate Y to start with. So, yeah, I mean, even if it's not cartoony, you see how that bounce is going to look soft there. Let's make sure these are all, whoops, these are all broken, these tangents, and whoops. That, and the other thing is that, if this is the contact frame, it should probably be, so these are at 1 point, oh, they're not all at the same, probably should all be at 1, huh? Let's take a look. Right view. Should that be 1? Yes. So a quick way to change all of those to 1 is to just select them all and type 1 here. Okay, to make sure they're touching. Might get rid of that guy because I'm not quite sure why he's there. And again, let's get some arc shape out of that and flatten this tangent. Might be able to get rid of that one. Maybe put this in the middle here. Close enough. It's strange that this bounce would be longer than the previous ones. Let's go back. See if that helped at all. Better, but yeah, that last bounce is clearly too long. So, whoops. Oh, and this should be at that 1 also. I might maybe shorten this one too a little bit. And then for this roll thing here, if it's going to be sliding here, it should be rolling there too. Let's look at the translate X and the words. Oh, it's so subtle you can't even see it there. No, is that? Oh, it's not rotate X. Must be rotate Y, right? See? Okay. There we go. So yeah, it might be that. What I might do is, where does it start rolling? Right here. So maybe put in rotate Z keyframe there, and then take out these two, so that it starts rolling more. But that's not enough. Part of it is this tangent. We can break that and move that. Oops. Move that steeper so that it doesn't take so long to start rolling. Oh gosh, that's. Why does it seem like it's not rotating here? Let's see. Oh, is it rotating in more than one of those things? Looks like it's only rotate Z. It sure looks like its curve is changing there, but it just might not be rotating enough. Let me just try this. Oops. A little steeper. And then also move this down some. Better. Yeah, better. Okay. Now there's a few touch-ups for you. Now we've got Pierre. Let's take a look at the cartoony one first. So there's not too much squash and stretch going on. For cartoony I would go more. It looks like it stretches a little bit, but it looks like it's hardly squashing at all when it makes contact. So I think what you're really missing there is the squash, and so I might work to exaggerate that a bit more. Let's take a look at your basketball. I think the timing of those first couple is okay, but when I think of a basketball bouncing, I think of towards the end of it at those kind of several very quick, very small bounces, but this seems to kind of come to an abrupt, just dead stop. And so maybe some little bounces, quick bounces at the end, and maybe a slight roll might help as well. Because right now it just seems to come to a very abrupt end. And I think it might lose more height. I mean, clearly it loses height between the first and the second. This height and this height, it loses some height. Maybe it should lose more, not sure. This one, though, I would expect to lose more height between here and here because it only lost a little bit. And then suddenly it dead stops. So that's where there clearly should be at least a few more bounces in there. All right, good work, everyone.